So continuing on with Republicans' theme to basically try and sabotage the U.S. federal government, I saw that some Republicans were proposing, as a part of the big beautiful bill for the U.S. Postal Service, to sell off all of its electric vehicles and all of the subsequent electric vehicle infrastructure that it has purchased over the last however many years for short-term gains at the expense of long-term planning. I can't think of any good reason why that this would make sense. So hopefully this article gives a little bit more information. Senate Republicans cannot force U.S. Postal Service to scrap EVs, parliamentarian says. Senate Republicans cannot force the U.S. Postal Service to scrap thousands of electric vehicles and charging equipment in a massive tax and budget bill, the Senate parliamentarian said late on Sunday. The U.S. Postal Service currently has 7,200 electric vehicles made up of Ford E-Transit vehicles and specifically built next-generation delivery vehicles built by Oshkosh Defense. USPS warned on June 13th that scrapping the electric vehicles would cost it $1.5 billion, including $1 billion to replace its current fleet of EVs and $500 million in EV infrastructure rendered useless and seriously crippled our ability to replace an aging and obsolete delivery fleet. Senate parliamentarian Elizabeth McDonough, whose role is to ensure lawmakers follow proper legislative procedure, said a provision to force the sale could not be approved via a simple majority vote in the Republican-controlled chamber and will instead need a 60-vote supermajority, according to Democrats on the Senate Budget Committee. She ruled last week that Republicans cannot use the bill to overturn landmark rules to drastically reduce vehicle emissions and boost EV sales. Senate Republicans have also sought to reclaim more than $1 billion out of $3 billion Congress gave USPS in 2023 as part of a $430 billion climate bill to buy EVs and charging infrastructure, including $1.2 billion for electric vehicles. What I don't get about this whole plan, what I don't get is the motivation, right? So, who wants to buy these old USPS specialty built delivery vehicles, right? I would imagine that the market for these sort of electric vehicles secondhand is really weak. So I would imagine that we would get let's say, just for argument's sake, we were able to sell all 7,000 vehicles and all of the subsequent charging equipment and whatever else that we have along with it. I would imagine that we would get a fraction of what we paid for all of it. So the idea of doing this as a money-making tactic makes no sense. If we just bought all of this stuff, if all of this has been bought since 2023 or newer, it's not time to replace the fleet. So they can't be using the argument that we're doing all of this to upgrade the USPS, update it, and replace all of their equipment or whatever. That's clearly not what they're doing. I can't come up with a motivation for this. I can only come up with two motivations for this. Potential motivation would be they just don't want the USPS to function, and so they're going to do just basically whatever they can to kneecap the USPS's ability to function. And this is one way is to claw back funding that we just gave them to update their fleet of cars or whatever. And the only other motivation, obviously that motivation is stupid, and the only other motivation I can think of that would maybe make sense for this is just a full-throated. Not only do you think the whole electric vehicles, climate change stuff is a hoax, but you'd have to go a step further and think it's some huge giant globalist conspiracy theory, and that electric vehicles are really horrible, and that they're equally as bad as gas cars or worse, and that it's really all just a control tactic so Bill Gates can put microchips in your butt or something. Literally, the only two motivations I can think of for this is they want to kneecap the USPS's ability to function, or they think electric vehicles and climate change or whatever is a hoax, and that they think it's some globalist plot to control you or whatever. Those are the only two arguments that I could possibly think of to support wanting to sell off the $1.5 billion in EV equipment that the USPS just purchased over the last couple of years. It just makes no sense. It just seems so stupid. And it's not even like, what would be more defensible is if they were like, hey, you know, we allocated $4 billion for them to do all of this. They've only spent $1.5 billion, so they still have 2.5 that they could spend over the next couple of years, and we're going to claw back that remaining 2.5 or whatever. Okay, that would be at least more defensible than arguing to sell off everything. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. USPS told Congress summarily removing all electric vehicles and charging infrastructure would hobble our ability to deliver to the American people. It would directly harm our ability to serve your constituents, and it would waste crucial funds for no reasonable purpose. Replacing the current 7,200 electric vehicles would directly cost the Postal Service at least $450 million, and USPS has also spent about $540 million on electrical infrastructure upgrades, which is literally buried under parking lots, and there is no market for used charging equipment, the company added. USPS would also face significant costs from Oshkosh for halting. It's such a terrible name, Oshkosh. It feels gross even saying it. It's just a bad sound to come out of your mouth, Oshkosh. USPS would also face significant costs from Oshkosh for halting EV purchases under its contract. USPS said in December that purchases in 2025 would be around 50-50 EVs and gas-powered. USPS plans to buy some 66,000 electric vehicles by 2028. Senate Republicans argued scrapping EVs would focus USPS on delivering mail and not achieving the environmental aims pushed by the Biden administration. Oh my God, that's so, dude. I mean, I can't say I'm surprised. But yeah, they're basically giving we think environmentalism is a hoax, we think climate change is a hoax, and we think that this is all some sort of elaborate plot to control people to sell electric vehicles for no good reason. That's basically the argument they're making. It's also hilarious. This assertion is also hilarious, right? They say this as if it's not possible for the USPS to simultaneously do its job delivering mail and upgrade their fleet of delivery vehicles at the same time, right? I don't understand why those can't happen at the same time. They say this as if those are two diametrically opposed things that cannot be happening at the same time, which is insane, which is stupid. In March, the White House forced out Postmaster General Louise DeJoy, who led efforts to restructure the money-losing U.S. Postal Service for nearly 5 years. USPS has lost more than $100 billion since 2007. It's not a company. It's not supposed to be profitable. It's a service. Does anybody remember the Pony Express? Was the Pony Express making money back in 17, whatever? Probably not. It's supposed to be a service. It's supposed to be a service. It's not supposed to be profitable. Why would we want the USPS to be profitable? Shipping things would cost more money for the average individual person if they were making a profit. That's just not it's a very strange. I think this framing should be attacked at every opportunity. Every time this framing is presented, it should be attacked and smacked down as silly, because the Postal Service is not a private organization. They're not a private company, and their goal, job, or duty is not to make a profit. It is to serve the American people. And the USPS, the United States Postal Service, services the American people is by providing postal service. It's a service. It's not supposed to be profitable. There's no reason for it to be profitable. David Steiner, a FedEx board member and former CEO of Waste Management, has been named as incoming Postmaster General. Yeah. Yeah, it's a huge shocker that the guy who is the corporate stooge, who was a FedEx board member, wants to limit the USPS's ability to. That makes all of this that only supports this right here. David Steiner, a FedEx board member and former CEO of Waste Management, has been named as incoming Postmaster General. This further supports the idea that this is all just one big cynical, that they're doing this for cynical purposes, that his goal really is to basically kneecap the USPS's ability to function. This may be an amalgamation of things, right? There may be elements of this administration that do believe that climate change is a hoax and that the sale of EVs and pushing of them is some sort of globalist plot to control you. There probably are elements of this administration that legitimately believe that. But then there are also elements of this administration that are cynically doing this as like a cash grab, that want to kneecap the USPS, want to limit its ability to function and do provide a good service so that places like FedEx and USP and whatnot can make a whole bunch more money, because people aren't, the USPS service isn't as good as it used to be or whatever. This is just like peak corruption. Peak corruption. President Donald Trump said in February that he was considering merging the Postal Service with the Commerce Department, a move Democrats said would violate federal law. I know almost nothing about that proposal or what it would mean practically, or honestly, I don't know anywhere near enough about that sort of idea to comment on it. It seems like my gut would tell me that something wonky like that could be fine. It could be bad. It could be good. It could be neutral. But with this administration, it is almost certainly going to be bad or at best neutral.